always at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time.
It is.
Welcome to the Daily Show, where we go over all the 49ers news. And believe it or not, Alex, there's still news.
Wow, that's crazy.
Lots of stuff to talk about. Lots of conversations about 49ers. The good news is, Alex,
But they just played.
winning conversations. Yeah, 3 out of 4 for the 49ers.
That's crazy, man.
I know.
It's crazy. Some of the faithful still can't believe it. And it's okay. It's
and
okay.
Grant Cohn's hair is on fire.
Is his hair on fire or his pants on fire?
Either way.
All of it.
Yeah.
All of the above.
Yeah.
Look, you know what's not on fire? This podcast, in terms of like actually burning to the ground with all the nonsense that we've been spouting.
No.
Because there's been no nonsense being spouted, just reality, just truth, just facts, and some insightful insight. Look at that.
Yeah.
Into this football team. So make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already, and help us, catch the subscription total number on fire as we try and get ourselves up to 3K. Look, there's a lot of things to talk about, and a lot of things that have come out of the Jacksonville game. One of the big things, obviously, is injury reports and injury updates, and people want to know about Elijah Mitchell and what's going on there. And right now, per Kyle Shanahan, it's day-to-day, is what they're saying. It's the thought process behind it. Still dealing with the finger, still dealing with the rib stuff. I think they said last week that early in the week they were hopeful that he was going to be able to play Sunday, and they said as they got later into the week, just wasn't going that way. I'm kind of still been in the boat that I think he could have played Sunday, and I think they're just being very cautious with this. Where are you at with this Elijah Mitchell information?
The fact that Kyle Shanahan said he's not going to speculate is giving me pause for concern. I'm a little worried about this now. I think that every part of Kyle Shanahan and this 49ers offense want and need Elijah Mitchell in the football game. I just don't know if he's going to be ready. It all comes down to, can he take the pain? Is he going to be able to secure the football? All those things are going to play into it. I'm really hopeful. I'm hopeful that he's going to be able to play, but I really don't know. And I'm not really going to say that I have any idea whether he's going to play or not, because I have no idea the medical. And Kyle Shanahan gave us absolutely nothing yesterday. Absolutely nothing. No insight into whether we're going to get Elijah Mitchell this week. And hopefully we'll find out more later on the week. Maybe even get him out there on the practice field because we could use him against Minnesota, because this offensive run game really is drastically different without him.
You are 100% right there, my guy. It is definitely different without Elijah Mitchell out there on the football field. So having him is kind of a big thing and an important thing for the 49ers. Kyle kind of talked about in his presser today a little bit about how the Niners haven't really been gashing teams with the run game. It's been slow, methodical, just finding a way, grinding, gritting it out to get it done. Elijah Mitchell helps you kind of gash a little bit. He's the only 49er running back on the roster who has a run of, I think, more than 15 yards on the season. So, kind of need the gasher out there in order to gash teams. And there's some other injury updates as well. I don't want to get too far ahead into other things in the running back pecking order, which is coming up. Don't you worry about that, Cutback crew and faithful. But cornerback Devontae Harris sustained a knee injury, exited the game. He had an MRI. Looks like he's going to be A-OK, and Shanahan was hopeful they're going to get him back at practice this week. Lincoln Tomlinson dealing with a little bit of an ankle injury suffered in the game, but Kyle believes he's going to be fine. He's just going to be limited throughout the week. So when you see the inevitable first injury report of the weekend, Lincoln Tomlinson is on there with a limited practice. Don't panic, Cutback crew and faithful. The only time you should really start getting super worried is if we're later in the week and he's DNPing after a limited practice.
I think that's a good sign. If it was an ankle and he was already DNPing, that would signal that it was some sort of a sprain or another injury that he couldn't go. The fact that he's out there and going is a good sign for the 49ers, because that means he already has some mobility and is already able to use it to a point. So I'm definitely okay with this. And the one thing that I've noticed is as this season has progressed, the injury list has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller as they're coming out of these games. And notice that since they've been playing with great physicality, the injury amounts have been going down, because when you are the hammer and not the nail, you don't have a chance to get hurt as much. So the 49ers right now are the hammer, and they've been hammering these other teams. And you've seen the Rams having injuries. You've seen the Jacksonville Jaguars having injuries. And you see the Niners walking away with hurts. And that is a completely different style and different way to play football, and I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the sledgehammer way that the 49ers are playing offense, and I look forward to seeing how they do it against Minnesota. But yeah, I'm not really worried about Lakin as much as I am about Elijah Mitchell. And then, as far as the other guys like, Harris, He's a guy that, he's on the practice squad, so they can just leave him on the practice squad if he's hurt. So it's not a big deal.
Agreed with you there on that. It definitely isn't the end of the world per se, and we'll just have to wait to see what happens there with all of this, with all of these injuries or these guys that are dealing with some nicks and some bang-ups and some bruises. I'm assuming everything's going to be A-okay. It's going to be just fine. And so until there's more information or more things to go off of, I'm not going to speculate too much. I'm not going to freak out more than I need to or more than is necessary, because it doesn't do any good for anyone to be doing those types of things. But there were questions about the running back room, Ant. Questions about the running back room because Trey Sermon got carries, 10 to be precise. 10 whole carries for not a lot of yards. But got on the football field. Do you know what his
yards were?
I think it was like 30 or 20.
Okay.
So I'll double check it while we're talking about this running back pecking order. But Kyle talked about how Elijah Mitchell has asserted himself and cemented himself essentially as RB1 in the backfield. Jeff Wilson is that guy right behind him because he's done it consistently through his time in San Francisco. Hasty is that guy right now that's on the bench, but has demonstrated a lot of good things. And that he talked a little bit about Trey and how Trey Sermon has definitely improved since the last time that he got his opportunities to get touches. But there's a pecking order, right? There's only so many touches to go around from everybody, and everyone is kind of solidified their role or done things in their role to get themselves into certain positions and situations. This doesn't surprise me. This doesn't surprise you. We know about the running back pecking order. These guys have demonstrated that there's pecking order. Kyle has lived by this pecking order pretty much all season long, seeing as, I would honestly say that I don't even think Trey Sermon is the guy behind JaMycal Hasty. I think the guy behind JaMycal Hasty is actually Kyle Juszczyk, if you're looking at the actual running backs in the running back room. But you and I both know now it's Deebo Samuel is also somewhere in that mix in terms of touches. Does the running back pecking order surprise you? Does it surprise you that Kyle Shanahan has his pecking order? Is there anything about this that you feel is unfair to Trey Sermon, or based on what we've seen, definitely Trey has improved? I mean, the big catch down the sideline was absolutely stunning because I expected him to drop it. I 100% expected him to drop it because I've seen him do nothing but drop passes all training camp, practices when we were there, and in games. He's dropped balls hitting him right in the hands, right through his hands in the face. It doesn't matter. So Trey Sermon has definitely improved. Is there any chance for him to even move up this pecking order this year?
No, I don't think so. I think what it is, it comes down to that these guys are just better than him. This is called a depth chart, not so much a pecking order, but a depth chart. And on the depth chart, Elijah Mitchell's 1 and Jeff Wilson Jr.'s 2. And JaMycal Hasty's the third down back. And he's the one that's in that position. And Trey Sermon doesn't have the capabilities to be a third down back. That's not what he's about. He's not about catching the ball in the backfield. He's not someone you can match up out wide and be a mismatch. The play you're referring to, he caught the ball coming out of the backfield on a little bit of a wheel route. And it was a great play. He made a play, and that's what you expect from him. He had a couple of runs in this game that, hey, all right. You get excited about it. But then there's all kinds of plays where you look at it and you're just like, whoa, what are you doing, man? Use your eyes, use your vision. And we're just not seeing that yet. Right now, if you were going to give an analogy, this would be the analogy of Vin Diesel in Fast and the Furious talking to Paul Walker when he says, double clutching, not double clutching, granny shifting like you're supposed to, the whole thing. It's bad. It's just a bad look. And that's the problem is right now, Trey Sermon is trying to figure this thing out. And I think they know he needs time. And Elijah Mitchell's farther along in how his running style and the things that he's able to do. And it's very evident in the game. He's finding ways to gash. Kyle Shanahan brought up gash plays. And he's one of those guys that can find those big carries. And anytime you can take a play that should go, 4 or 5 yards and you can turn it into 10 to 15, you're a dynamic player in this league. So I'm excited about this. Trey Sermon, it will develop. There's time for him. The problem is, can he develop quick enough to be able to be on this roster? Because they got big roster decisions to make, and I'm sure they want Trey Sermon to be a part of that if they can, because they spent a third-round pick on him. But Kyle Shanahan's also not going to just sit on something. Joe Williams was the draft pick that they brought in the 4th round when Kyle Shanahan first got there, and after 2 years, he was gone. So if you don't develop, you're going to get moved on. They're going to find somebody else that will, whether that's an undrafted guy like Matt Breida, an undrafted guy like Raheem Mostert, or someone like Elijah Mitchell that you bring in the 6th round. You bring those guys in, because Kyle needs to have weapons, and right now he doesn't have enough weapons. So, yeah, Trey Sermon's the third guy as far as, because it's a different style of player than JaMycal Hasty. The problem is Jeff Wilson Jr. and Elijah Mitchell can both play on third down too. Trey Sermon can't, and that's the difference between the 4 running backs right now.
Absolutely. And Trey Sermon, to clarify for everyone, 10 carries, 32 yards, so 3.2 yards per carry. And you may be sitting there going, that's not that great. Well, Jeff Wilson had 19 for 50. So 19 for 50 isn't a great number either. 2.6 yards per carry. But this is what I mean.
Debo saved us.
Debo 100% saved us. 8 for 79, 9.9 yards
There
per
it is.
carry. That's what does it for you there. Debo Samuel was, you said it in the reaction show, Ant. I felt it. You felt it. I'm pretty sure the Cutbacker and the Faithful felt it. I know Jay Hill for sure felt it, seeing as he's making the case on face-off for him to be a running back going forward with this team. 8 carries for 79 yards was absolutely incredible. It definitely did save us. It saved us the last few weeks. Debo has been the guy who's had the best runs. He's been one of the best runners with the football in his hand. So mixing him in with that group, he is definitely, in terms of the depth chart, up a little bit higher than some of these guys. And it's going to make it tough for carries to go around. But this is what I mean. This is why having Elijah Mitchell out there right now is kind of a big deal. It's kind of important. Outside of Debo Samuel running the football out of the backfield, there isn't really another guy who gashes teams and makes big runs. That guy just doesn't exist. And Jeff Wilson is shaking off rust, right? Jeff Wilson's coming off of a knee injury and not having played for a while. It's been a long while since Jeff Wilson Jr. has been on the football field doing things for the 49ers. So yeah, he's looked great so far, and he's done a really good job in his role right now, which is being asked, which is to be the short down back and come in on third downs in certain key situations. Also, when Debo is the guy in the backfield right now, come in and be a blocker, right? Opposite a use check, or, be a guy that they can utilize in a variety of different ways. So Jeff Wilson is playing his role extremely well right now. Debo filled in for the gashing role this last weekend. Yeah. But the big but in this is, can we keep relying on Debo to be that? I think we can. But I also think that it isn't necessarily the best case scenario for us if our star wide receiver is the guy having to carry the rock a bunch.
Yeah, I think it should be, Debo 3 to 4 times, a game that he's lined up in the backfield and possibly carrying the football. That's why you need Elijah Mitchell back, because if you have Elijah Mitchell, he can handle the big load. Jeff Wilson Jr. can take care of the short yardage. And then Debo Samuel can add these, big chunk plays along the way when you need to spell or to give a different look. But they are definitely missing, players like Raheem Mostert in this offense.
100%.
And the fact that Trey Sermon hasn't developed the way that I think they were hoping is changing the way they're playing it. Because when Jeff Wilson was out, they should have been able to rely on Trey Sermon to get those short yardage carries. But they had to rely, all of it. All of it was on Elijah Mitchell. That's why he was getting banged up. That's why he was getting ribs and he was getting, fingers and shoulders, because they were having to rely on him to get those big, carries for 1 yard as well when they were expecting big backs to be able to do it. He's just been doing it all. And I think that we can't forget how important Elijah Mitchell is to this football team right now. And we need him in this offense. I mean, he's rushed for over 570 yards on the season. He's having himself a nice season. We lost games against Seattle. We lost games against Green Bay. Elijah Mitchell wasn't on the field. That's literally our best running back. If Elijah Mitchell's playing in those football games, especially Green Bay, we could have a different outcome. So in that game, I believe Trey Sermon had 19 carries for 89 yards, which is a nice gain. It's not bad. In that same situation, Elijah Mitchell, you could add another 30 to 40 yards onto that. That's just how much more dynamic he is in the run game than Trey Sermon at this point in their career. They're just not on the same wavelength. They're not the same player. They develop differently. So, yeah, there's a pecking order, but we used to just call it a depth chart. It's the best player plays, and right now, Trey Sermon is not the best player.
He may get there, but it's going to take time.
Yeah, that's why it's right now.
Yeah, that's you're not wrong. You're not wroong. That's exactly why it's right now.
If they give up on him, that means the running back coach doesn't think that he's the guy. And if Bobby Turner doesn't think that you can cut it, you can't cut it. I mean, so that's the thing. I don't think they'll give up on him, because I think Bobby Turner obviously has to see something in him, right?
Correct.
So, I mean, there's got to be something, and he is developing. He's gotten a little bit better. The problem is the running style is still not getting vertical enough. He gets vertical when he should go outside, and he goes outside when he should get vertical. So there's a little bit of, the
wires are crossed.
Of how he runs.
He's thinking 100% way too much. And, that may be just a system thing, right? This is a different system, different scheme, different philosophy, different ideas in terms of when you're supposed to hit certain things, whereas before maybe he had a little bit more freedom. This wouldn't be the first time that you had a running back in college who's extremely successful and was a great college running back come into the league and just it not translate. That happens
all the time.
All of the time.
Yeah.
And there's tons of guys in college who are good running backs in college, solid running backs in college that no one bats an eye about, that come into the league and it clicks. Arian Foster is a name that comes to mind specifically.
100%.
That it never seemed, he wasn't explosive or dynamic in college per se. And the minute he got into the league, he got himself into the right situation there with the Houston Texans, and all of a sudden he was a premier back for felt like a decade. It wasn't. I don't know if it was actually truly 10 years, but it felt like a very long time and was something that the Texans leaned on.
Oh, 100%. Terrell Davis is another name that comes to mind. Late round draft picks as far as running backs, it's commonplace. I mean, that really comes around a lot. These guys that make big time plays that are usually not first rounders or high in the draft. Trey Sermon can still develop. That's not the question. I think the thing that everyone just needs to kind of wrap their head around, because there is some struggle still to wrap their head around the fact that right now he's just not as good as the guy that's ahead of him. And that's okay. Yeah, I mean, it's okay when you're a rookie to not be better than those guys, as long as you develop into somebody that can eventually supplant them. They drafted him with every intention of him being better than Jeff Wilson Jr. He's not better than Jeff Wilson Jr. right now. It doesn't mean 2 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now, 10 weeks from now, next season, that he won't be. And in those situations, then you're happy with it. But he's got to develop, and he's got to develop, along the way.
Sooner rather than later.
Well, yeah, because right now Elijah Mitchell is taking the brunt of the hits. Now Jeff Wilson Jr. was back, so that helps some.
Yes.
And he's going to take a big load off, but even Jeff Wilson Jr. is not ready to carry the big load coming off that injury.
No, and that was the big concern going into this last weekend, was if you have to try and run the ball 40 times a game with no Elijah Mitchell, how do you divvy that up, Kyle Shanahan? And you know what, Ant? He did a pretty solid job of it, because they got 38 carries out of their running back room, and that includes Deebo Samuel in with that group, and none of them came out worse for wear. Jeff Wilson Jr. A-OK, Trey Sermon A-OK, Deebo Samuel A-OK. So when you come out of a game A-OK with all three of those guys, when you went in limited at the running back room, win. I'll take those.
Yeah, and I mean, some of the stats are washed a little bit, because at the end of the game, you're running the football knowing that
they're
the
just going to load the box.
They're going to completely load the box and stop it. So it skews your numbers a little bit, but it is nice to see. And we can't put anything else other than high praise on Jimmy Garoppolo, because in this game, he converted those third and fourth downs that had to be converted to continue to move the chains. So that is big up for him, and we needed him in this moment. So it's really huge. So he was a big part of the run game being successful, because then you're able to go back and run the ball again on first and second down
and keep on running it.
Oh yeah,
and that's key. That's huge. It's absolutely huge. But this goes into the 49ers cleaning up that offense, and that was one of the things that Kyle talked about a little bit in his presser on Monday at the end of the day. Was them cleaning up the offense, them executing better. And the question that was actually asked was an interesting one, because the question wasn't about the offense being cleaned up. It was more along the lines of essentially what's changed. Have you guys finally found your identity? Is it Jimmy Garoppolo executing on third downs? Can you just walk us through the process? You past couple of games where you had 2 30-point games in the span of 4 weeks, where before we were lucky to be putting up 20. If we could get 20 up on the board, then it's like, hey, okay, great, yeah, we did just enough, right? And now the offense is clicking on all cylinders. And Kyle's response to this was what our response was to a lot of this with the 49ers and what's been going on with this team, right? We didn't find an identity. We didn't start doing like different things, like a bunch of different things. We just started executing these things. We started executing and being consistent at a high level. Things that we weren't doing in the past, that everyone was looking around the room going, hey, we can be this type of team. We can do those things. We hadn't been able to move the chains on third down. We hadn't been able to get first downs and things of that nature. That's changed.
Yeah.
That's completely changed. Now, some of it is Jimmy finding his groove and being in the shotgun and completing and executing on third downs. But a lot of it has been receivers catching the football, Brandon Ayuk's ascendance, right? Guys like Jayon Jennings stepping up in run fits and making huge blocks and key blocks. Having George Kittle back in the lineup.
Yeah.
All those things kind of help.
Yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo's a better quarterback when George Kittle plays. That's just the way it is. Those two has a natural chemistry, but also he takes some of the pressure off because he helps the run game so much. When the run game starts going, everyone can be more successful. But you're right, the wide receivers cleaned up the drops, the offensive linemen started making blocks they were missing, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, we learned how to play. When in reality, this is what they wanted to do the whole time. They just weren't able to do it. They weren't able to have these successful plays because they would run the ball on first down, run the ball on second down, and throw it on third, and the ball would get dropped, or there would be an errant pass. So they found a formula that makes it work, but they had a formula already in place. It's just these players had to execute it, and now that they are, they're getting it done. So I'm excited. I am excited about the way that he has moved Jimmy Garoppolo into the shotgun consistently. Since Jimmy Garoppolo is into the shotgun, his passer rating is going through the roof. I think it feels more comfortable to him. This is what he was used to in New England. These are things that he's able to operate on them. And Good up to Kyle Shanahan. So everyone that says that Kyle Shanahan couldn't have can't have Aaron Rodgers, for instance, play here because he can't adapt his style. Poppycock, because he just did. And I stole your word right there.
You did.
Because he just did.
I'll allow it.
He adjusted his style to put Jimmy Garoppolo in the shotgun where Jimmy Garoppolo felt comfortable, give them the opportunity to see the field earlier, and also give him a little bit of distance between him and this offensive line, which is struggling, which is probably a big part of it. Gives him a bit of extra time. So I like it overall, but he's showing that he's able to adjust a little bit. And then once this team is able to execute the game plan, they can go out and win football games.
This is it's huge, and this is important. It's drastic that this team figure this out and be able to start doing these things, because the team was built to execute this offense a specific way. It was built for Kyle to be able to do certain types of things, and one of those things was run the football and get positive yards, get yourself into third and manageables, extend drives, go down the field long ways. Because there's the thing, 49ers fans remember, well, in years past, it wasn't that way. Remember 2019 with all the gashing runs and all the... Well, yeah, you had the running backs core to be able to do that. You had Breida, who was lights out speed, and when he got out to second level, an untouched second level, it was a house call. Same thing with Raheem Mostert. At that point, early in the season, Tevin Coleman was the healthiest he's been since 2019. He was a different running back then. You had the emergence of George Kittle, right? You had Deebo Samuel being able to coming into his own as the season progressed. All of those things in that 2019 season, all those pieces were healthy and the team was clicking at a very high level and executing. If they weren't busting those big plays, they still would have been chunking out 5, 6, 7 yards at a time. And those gashing runs would have been, instead of gashing runs for big touchdowns or getting us inside the one and having drives that were 5 or 6 plays, would have been what we're seeing right now, which are 10 play, 15, 18 play, 20 play drives where you're eating up a bunch of clock. Because teams are now having to do what against San Francisco, what they have already known, which is you got to load the box, you got to try and stop the run game, and that means putting a lot of guys and a lot of pressure up front, putting a lot of pressure on the wide receivers in space, and leaving the middle of the field open. You have to leave the middle of the field open if you're going to commit this much attention to the run game. Because if you commit this much attention to the run, and you got receivers on the outside, and you play actioning off of that, now these guys have to dissipate out, locate the guy in their zone, and get out there. Well, you got guys running verticals, you got guys running seams, you got running backs coming out of the backfield, and then you got guys sneaking behind zone coverage and sitting in the soft spots. And there's going to be a lot of soft spots when you're running the ball as effectively as the 49ers are. And if teams are going to continue to keep putting that pressure up in the box, Jimmy's going to continue is going to be able to continue executing over the middle of the field like he has been. And he's making enough throws outside the numbers right now to keep zones and safety softened up enough that they don't come flying downhill anymore. It seems like the Niners have the right balance right now, and Jimmy has found the right balance in terms of, when he's allowed to take his chances over the middle and fit balls into tight windows, and when it's time to just take a shot outside and give a guy a one-on-one opportunity. We've seen him now in 4 consecutive games, take at least 2 shots outside the numbers. This last week against the Jaguars, it was the sideline throw to Trey Sermon, as well as that almost dime that he threw to Deebo Samuel, where Deebo has his hands on it, and he's just not able to secure it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jimmy's taking shots. He's taking chances at opportune times.
The right moments.
Daryl Moose Johnson, I kind of like what he says sometimes. Sometimes he annoys me, but in this category, he was right. He was talking about why Kyle Shanahan thinks Jimmy Garoppolo fits his system is because you're talking about those middle throws being wide open. That's where Jimmy lives. And everyone talking about the fact that, that's the only place Jimmy throws. Well, part of the reason is because that's what Kyle Shanahan schemes up, because that's the area that's going to be open because of how these linebackers and safeties have to attack. It made perfect sense, and that's exactly what we've been saying for a while. That's actually an area that Trey Lance needs to improve a little bit.
It's one of his biggest areas of weakness.
It is. So right now, that's part of the reason that Jimmy gives him the better option. I think it's interesting, but I think Trey's going to develop very nicely there. I think that they can teach him how to do it, and they're going to scheme things up. But Jimmy is just doing everything that he needs to do right now. He's going out there. He's in control of this team. He's telling people, hey, hurry. It's Oscars. It's canning plays. Everything that he needs to do to put these guys in situations. And if you really pay attention and listen, when he does make those moves, they always work. Right now, when he's Oscaring, it's working. When he's going in and canning the play, it's working.
How about his can this weekend where they use checks out in the slot? He motions into the backfield and then does his little shuttle motion to the left like they're going to run that little toss play. And Jimmy kind of sits up, can. check resets. As soon as he resets, the linebackers shift and then they run to the right.
Oh, yeah.
And they use the window dressing, making everything look left. They get the reset off the can. The linebackers adjust, safety comes down and starts walking down that side, and they run the opposite direction. And it's like, oh boy. And
Yeah.
Jimmy knew pre-snap. When he didn't see the movement off that, he's like, oh, they think we're trying to get him to do, okay, can, we motioned, you didn't move. All right, we're going to run it to that side. Oh no, it was just window dressing. We're actually running right. Everyone is selling at least left, and we get a positive gain.
Yeah, he can earlier too in the game. I think it was actually one of the first couple plays, and he fakes a run play and then boots out and throws it to George Kittle, and it's like, yeah, that's what you need from him. And for everyone that doesn't know what a can is, they're coming to the huddle, and Kyle Shanahan calls two plays. Usually, one's a run play and one's a pass play, and then one of them is the main play you're supposed to run, and the other one you can to, which means check to. And when he checks to it, then you run that. And what he's doing is looking at the defense and finding out, which defense they're in and what will work. And when he's going Oscar, that is just, they're going to run the same run play. They're just going to flip it to the other side. And the defense doesn't know which side is which. So you can kind of throw him off. So it is nice to see him taking full control of this offense. And that's what I feel from him. I feel like Jimmy Garoppolo right now is a calming presence in that pocket. He's a calming presence on that roster. And I think that he's playing like the player that they expected to come into the season and do. And right now, everyone's rallying behind him. To me, this is starting to trend in the right direction. I'm very positive about what Jimmy's doing. So I'm enjoying this 49ers offense. And I think that's what Kyle Shanahan is enjoying as well.
It has to be. This has to be the thing that he's most excited about, and why. Well, you and I both know the reason why Jimmy has been in there is because he's been the guy who gives them the best chance, and Jimmy's been displaying it for the last 4 weeks. I mean, it's been Jimmy Garoppolo.
Statistically, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in the last 4 weeks.
He's got the best QBR in the last 4 weeks. So,
yeah.
I mean, there's always that. But yeah, Jimmy is just right now, in terms of his understanding, he doesn't have the physical tools. He doesn't have the athleticism, right? He doesn't have the flashy arm that Trey Lance has. All of those things are pluses for Trey that are going to be pluses for this team in the future.
Yeah.
Because right now, the best thing for this team is Jimmy Garoppolo's mind, his understanding of this team and the scheme and what's going on. Jimmy Garoppolo is just executing everything at a high level, and you love to see it. And what I also love to see more than almost anything else is what they're doing at the right tackle position, which has been absolutely incredible.
Before we go to the tackle, I wanted to get a stat out because I saw this.
Let's see it.
49er quarterbacks to complete 70% of their passes and throw multiple TDs in 3 straight games. There's only 2 that have ever done this.
Oh boy.
Joe Montana in 1989, Jimmy Garoppolo in 2021. So that's why I got my phone out. I apologize to everyone. I couldn't remember the exact numbers. I wanted to get it right. But just think about that. That's the kind of stretch that Jimmy Garoppolo is on there. Now we can go to the right tackles.
At least half of the cutback crew right now is going, wait, what?
Yeah.
Hold on, what? And then have to, that's a misleading stat. It's misleading. How dare you compare them, put them in the same conversation?
You know who put them in the same conversation?
Jimmy Garoppolo?
Jimmy Garoppolo. Completing 70% of his passes for 3 straight games and 2 touchdowns with no interceptions. That is a wonderful stat. That is Jimmy Garoppolo playing good football. Do I think he's Joe Montana? No. And I'll look you straight in the eye. No. But I think that's an interesting stat just to shows how well Jimmy Garoppolo is playing right now.
Absolutely.
And sorry to cut you off. You were doing nicely getting us to the right tackle. I had to get to that stat.
No, you get to that stat, my guy, because that is a glorious stat, and I'm glad you did it because it brought a smile on my face, and hopefully everyone else as well.
Yeah.
Jimmy Garoppolo, keep doing your thing. But the right tackle shuffle has been interesting because we've been seeing Jalen Moore go in, Tom Compton also going in, and then flipping them out back and forth, flip flop. And Forrester talked to Shanahan a little bit about it because Kyle was a little surprised that Tom played the entire second half, but it came down to amount of plays, amount of snaps, amount of opportunities. It wasn't there like it was in the first half, and so he wanted to make sure Tom got enough of his reps. This looks like they're trying to figure out which guy is the long-term solution there at right tackle, something that you had brought up and mentioned. It's kind of where my thought process was with this, but very rarely do you see a coach willing to make those types of changes. It also lets you know how close they actually are in terms of their production and performance, that you don't have to have, a different game plan or set of plays or things of that nature to play to one person's strengths and another person's weaknesses. They're just rolling out there and seeing which guy executes at the highest level and figuring out which guy is the long-term solution while McGlinchey's down.
And it might not be one guy. I mean, it might be both.
It could be both.
It might be by matchup. Who they're going to go against as far as a pass rusher, what kind of run plays are going to be operating during that game, whether it's going to be pulling or they're going to be reaching, with stretch plays, outside zone, if it's going to be gap scheme. All of it can determine which one of these guys play. So you're going to get film on them and see which guys are doing the best against certain type of pass rushers or certain type of defenders. And then you play the best player that fits your scheme. Nobody bats an eye when you change a tackle. I mean, nobody bats an eye. So if you wanted to go ahead and switch personnel groupings with tackles, I'd love it. These guys, someone like Tom Compton especially, is very versatile in what he can play. He can play along the offensive line almost completely all the way across. Is he going to do it at the highest level at all those positions? No. But he's one of those guys that can go in there and get it done if asked. So having this guy move around is not a big problem for me. I kind of like the idea, but I do think they're getting an idea of how these guys operate against people, getting film on them while they're deciding who's playing better, and then also finding areas that they can improve in both. I think it is an open competition. No one guy might be the answer for Mike McGlinchey. It might take a multitude of guys, and it appears right now it's going to be Jalen Moore and Tom Compton together that have to make up what Mike McGlinchey added to this offense.
Oh, are you telling me that Mike McGlinchey was an important piece in this offense, Ant?
Pretty darn good, yeah.
He's catching a lot of flack and slander for a myriad of reasons that are kind of nonsensical.
Mike McGlinchey would have flourished in this style of 49ers offense, right? I mean, he would have flourished in this because he's a get moving, get after it kind of guy, and then the pass sets wouldn't have been as hard for him. But he would have flourished in a big way, and he was already having a pretty good season, even though he wasn't kind of getting the props that he should. He only given up 2 sacks when he got hurt.
Yep. I'm pretty sure they were the same game, too.
Probably.
Pretty sure it was that Arizona game.
And when you're playing from behind and you're trying to catch up, or when you're playing with a rookie quarterback that likes to run, sometimes it puts you in some different scenarios. But I'm definitely not blaming Trey. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying
it's a combination.
It's a different type of situation. That same game, Trent Williams also got beat a couple times.
True. Granted, he was playing with a bum ankle.
Well, Trey was holding on to the ball, trying to create, trying to make things happen.
True.
So things sometimes sacks happen.
Yep, that's accurate. That's very accurate. But look, this is great news for the 49ers all around.
Oh, yeah.
Other than the Elijah Mitchell question marks that are in the air right now in terms of where he's at, where he's going to be, outside of that, this team is moving at a great clip right now. The offense is clicking at the right time. They seem to have an understanding of their running back room and who adds what to what piece and who are the important pieces that you need to have. And the 49ers have shown that Kyle Shanahan has shown anyway, he's adaptable enough to figure out a way to make the pecking order work, to make the depth chart work at the running back position. I like it. I like that. It makes more sense in all honesty. And they're also not willing to just sit on their laurels and run with one guy at the tackle spot. They're willing to give it a shot with both and figure out which guy, if not both guys, give you the best option to win games going forward. And also understanding who they are, who they've always should have been, and not diverting away from their identity and what they want to be, but finding a way to get through to your guys to get the best out of them. Kyle talked about a few weeks ago, not being able to get the best from my A players, making sure that I get my A game from my A players, elevating my B players and, everyone else down the chart, helping them get elevated. He said, that falls on me at the end of the day. Since that conversation, we've seen nothing but A performances from A players. We've seen B players stepping up and elevating at a high level. And you have rookies like Talanoa Hufanga. You have rookies like Jalen Moore stepping up in big, huge, gigantic ways and playing key pivotal snaps in key pivotal moments for the 49ers.
Yeah, they're going to have to. You have to have depth if you're going to be a good football team. You can't just have 22 good starters. You have to have depth pieces that are able to come in and handle business. And that's what happens when you have guys that are overpaying their starters. When you have, these dream team type rosters, is you're an injury away from being in a world of hurt when you don't have the depth. It's about finding balance. And the 49ers have found balance, and now they're navigating through these injuries, and they're, coming out on the other end. So it's kind of an exciting time to be a 49er fan because they are literally a win from Minnesota and a loss of the Saints against the Bills away from the 49ers sitting in the 6th spot in the playoffs. That's right. We're not even going to sit at the 7. We're going to jump all the way to the 6th spot. And depending on how the Rams handle business this week, they could be sitting right there one game behind the Rams when knowing that a game is coming up where you can play.
And McVay is feeling that pressure right now. That entire team is feeling that pressure. After getting embarrassed on Monday night against the 49ers, seeing them, what they did to the Jaguars and how easily they handle them and how in control they are, watching them basically have PTSD, watching the 49ers move down the field in the same exact way that they moved down the field against you on Monday night, they have to be sitting there going, this team is clicking at the right time. This is horrible news for all of us, everyone in the NFC West, this is the worst possible thing that could have happened, is the 49ers figuring out who they are. They're praying that the Minnesota Vikings can come out and shut down this 49ers team, because if they can come out and shut this down, well, narratives completely change. And if you're the 49ers, you take care of business against Minnesota, you come out and stifle this run game, you come out and be the team that we all know we should have been from week 1 till right now at this very moment. Everyone is going to be shaking in their boots, and you're going to flip the entire script on the season, from bust organization to Kyle Shanahan should be on the hot seat to the hottest team in football, and it would have happened in the blink of an eye. In 5 short weeks, the 49ers go from bottom dwellers to not having a coach, having a terrible plan and future for this team and this organization, to the best team in football. Because I can already hear the people saying it. I can already see the people flip-flopping over on their takes on this football team. I guess welcome. Welcome back, faithful. Welcome back to trusting and believing in this team and this organization and what they've built, because they have the talent. They've built a great foundation, and now the guys are building off of that foundation, which is just great to see.
No, it wasn't a hot seat, Alex.
No way. No way. Who would have thought?
It was a hot plate. They were making flapjacks. Not flip-flops, it's flapjacks.
Flapjacks.
They're wonderful. You put a little syrup on there, a little syrup in my hair. That's wonderful, Jack. No, anyways, I think that they're trending in the right direction. Now they do need to get a big win against Minnesota.
True.
But it feels like, kind of the team has that swagger back. They have an attitude that has been, brought up. You see the way Kyle Shanahan is addressing, his players in the locker room, and the way they're all, kind of looking at each other, and the attitude that they have. I don't know. It seems like a lot of dogs are in that locker room, and they're ready to roll. Dogs. I don't think they like being called out, and now they're going to go out there and get it done. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting stretch right now. If they can beat Minnesota, it changes some things. It changes the way that the playoff picture looks, and I like it. I think there are some teams. I don't think there's a lot of teams that really want to see a very good 49ers team in the playoffs, and I love it.
I want all of it. Give me the smoke.
Oh yeah,
give us all the smoke.
We want the smoke.
We want the smoke. We're looking forward to it. Cutback crew, we hope you enjoyed this breakdown of all of this wonderful news about the 49ers that's coming your way, from the right tackle shuffle to the 49ers clean up their offense to the running back pecking order. We want to hear from you, though, down below in the comment section right now. Do you feel the same about the pecking order? Does Trey Sermon belong higher on that pecking order, and we got it wrong? Kyle's got it wrong, and if so, why? Why do you feel that way? Who do you think should be starting at right tackle? Are you okay with them shuffling these guys around? Let's have this conversation. Let's discuss this team with you down below in the comment section. And while you're down there commenting away, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell.
I would like to make one comment, because there's been a nice swell of a wave of people that wanted to see Trey Lance come in this game early.
True.
And I seen there's a lot of the comments were, well, why didn't you put him in early? All he was going to do handoff anyways. Don't you want him to develop? If all he's going to do is hand off anyways, where's the development?
Yeah.
You literally just argued your own argument with an argument. I don't know. I don't get it.
Well, you argued your own argument with an argument that doesn't actually help your argument, therefore disproving your argument?
Boom. Yeah, it didn't make sense to me. I don't understand it. Did I think Trey was going to come in a series earlier? Yes, I did. But at no time did I thought they weren't going to throw the football. So it wasn't like he was going to get a wealth of knowledge from doing this. He has started a game against Arizona where he got a lot more experience, and this playing a couple drives in this game, it really means nothing, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well, look, not only that, but it just you can practice canning, killing, Oscaring in practice.
Well, he's not in that situation, right? Kyle Shanahan's like, run the play. We got 8 in the box. We're just trying to get yards.
We're just getting yards and killing clock.
Yeah,
my guy. That's about it.
I mean, and Trey did a great job. He even got the first down to secure the game.
He did.
Well done.
Great job, bro.
I just don't get the complaints.
I guess 49ers fans just can't have anything nice. Or at least a section of it.
I think there's a huge portion of 49er fans that loved it. Every minute of it, thought that everything went well. And then I think there's this little group of people that are just ready to watch the world burn.
I mean, do they carry an infinity gauntlet and snap their fingers?
Well, he's the leader of the charge, that's for sure.
You're not wrong. Yeah. You're not wrong. Cutback crew, though, we hope you enjoyed. We'll see you on the next one. And until that time, stay safe.
Remember, the right way
is always the 49ers way.